So hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday. Today, I'm honored to have Milind Mulick with me. Milind is from India. Fabulous artist. He's a Daniel Smith ambassador. Milind is trained over or had over 10,000 students. He's written numerous books. He's published in many, many different magazines and articles throughout the world. And today he's here to show you his painting style and to answer questions you may have. Fabulous artist, is also a gifted musician. When I was last with him, he was playing his guitar. So he's a wonderful man all the way around. Milind, welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm gonna leave it with you to take over and talk to the viewers. And if you're on Zoom, you can certainly unmute your button and talk to Milind. Or if you're on Facebook, I'll be reading your questions. So thank you, everybody.
So, John, you can tell me whenever you want me to paint, I can start painting. And if you want me to talk, I can start talking.
So I think what I'd always like to ask is, who was your mentor? How long have you been painting in watercolor? Did you go to school for watercolor, or is it as a passion you learned along the way? So something about yourself.
Okay. See, my father was a painter. He was a illustrator. He was a comic book illustrator, as well as he used to paint in oil, historic themes, and etc. And he used to do watercolor as well. So I started doing watercolor with him when I was in school. Like whenever we used to go on trips, everything. So we would do plein air. And during that time, when I was in school, my father had got a lot of British magazines in which I saw works of Edward Wesson, Edward Seago, and few other British painters, which really appealed to me. So that's why I started, I got very attracted to watercolor, and till today, I'm very attracted to watercolor. That bug started long back when I was in school. And obviously, I was painting in all mediums earlier, like oil, acrylic, pastels, watercolor, and everything. But ultimately, to my temperament, I found watercolor much closer to my temperament. It's not that I don't like other mediums. I like all the mediums, but I'm more comfortable with watercolor, so I stick to that. And maybe around before 2000, watercolor was not as popular as it is today. And when I wrote my first book on watercolor, which was published in 2000, my publisher had faith in me, but a lot of other artists were saying that watercolor will extinguish in a few years and it won't last for a long time. This was way back in 1990. But I continued with my book, and then the book showed the, and now I think watercolor is most popular medium all over the world. So my idea of sticking to watercolor really worked then, back in 2000. The book, which was published in 2000 in India in 2 languages, my local language and English, that has crossed 100,000 copies.
All right.
So that speaks about the success of watercolor. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the watercolor bouncing back as a very popular medium. And yeah, I've been painting for 35, 40 years almost now, consistently.
And so who was your father was your mentor, or did you have another mentor?
See, my father, obviously, yeah, my father is not, I won't call him as a mentor. Like, he never made an attempt to teach me anything. Rather, he encouraged me to find out things on my own and be on my own. So that's how I learned, mostly from the books and from the practice. So there is no such mentor as such. Mentor in the sense teacher, I mean to say. Obviously, my father was mentor in all other aspects, but he was very careful in not teaching me specifics. He wanted me to find out my own path. So that was one good thing about him. Otherwise, I would be like him. Yeah, I don't know.
Excellent. And so I see behind you a painting that you have. What are your favorite colors? Do you use all colors? For example, granulating colors. Do you like?
See, I like all. I mean, I like. There is no such color as a favorite color. Like the primaries, of course, I use a lot, which are pure pigments. Sometimes for effects, like if I want a texture or something, I like these granulating colors, or even the dual pigment colors, which sediment into two different things. So basically, I'm more comfortable with the limited amount of colors when I'm doing one particular painting, so that I have a control over the harmony. So even though in my dot card there are 19 colors, which are my favorite, but when I'm doing one painting, I won't be choosing more than 5 to 6 colors for that painting, so that I have a control on the tonality as well as the the variation that would support the harmony of the painting.
When you do paintings, Milind, is it from something? Is it from photographs you've taken? Is it from in your mind? Kind of. What is your source of composition?
See, basically, it is what I see. So when I started painting, I used to do only plein air. Like long back, there was no camera. Later on, I started using camera and photo reference as a painting. But obviously, there is something out there which is an inspiration. It's not entirely from my mind. But sometime I experiment with compositions which are like there is a source material in front of me. It could be a photograph, it could be a sketch, or I might be sitting in the plein air. But then I try to move away from it to create my own composition. So the elements are from the surrounding, but the composition is an experiment of my own, like something like that. So both ways, I paint plein air realistic, and I paint some very semi-realistic, you can say, which has got nothing to do with reality.
So I know that you have some of your paintings as a slideshow. Can you go over, maybe show us one of your works and explain to us?
So there are quite a few works. So we will just go over the slideshow. And so this is a typically Indian scene which you see in Rajasthan. So if you see that blue, that's one of my favorite blue, and I many a time use cobalt teal or manganese for that kind of blue. This is Mumbai. Okay, next one. This is a typically Mumbai scene. I like these old buildings. Can you just go a little slow over this? So I like the crowdedness of these buildings. So I mean, if normally if you look at it, you might say it's an ugly thing, but I try to find that beauty in the ugliness, not ugliness, I would say, but in the chaoticness of the cityscape. So I'm very excited with these city old buildings. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is somewhat, there was a reference, but this is an imaginary composition. So this is more of a semi-abstract nature, you can say. It wasn't exactly like this, but the elements are taken from what I saw, but composed in my own way. Next one. Yeah, this is the same room which I'm actually sitting right now. This is from my house itself. Next. This is a typically Indian village. If you go away from the urban side, there are small villages where there are old houses, there are new concrete blocks, but there are no roads. So in 2-3 showers, it will all get muddy and it will get a lot of water, which is reflecting the sky. And so I'm very happy seeing this, though the people around there were not very happy walking on this kind of road. But I got my composition, so I was very happy. Next one. This is a typically European scene, which I keep doing in my workshops often. Next one. Those of who have gone to Thailand would immediately recognize this thing called as tuk-tuk. In India, we call it auto rickshaw. So, a busy, crowded thing. Next one. This is obviously, you can recognize this has to be France, which is written there also. Next. Yeah. So usually I'm not a portrait painter, but whenever I like to paint faces, either the man has to have a very rugged features and beard, or he has to have a turban. Then it gives me interesting shapes and colors to paint. Thanks. Next. This is a huge guy you must be knowing. I mean, we have a lot of them in South India. So this is from Kerala. This was experimenting with light and contrast, stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, these are some of my favorite kind of subject where I get the texture, I get my bicycle, I get there are hanging clothes, there is a bicycle, there is a bucket. So these kind of painting definitely evoke a story in viewer's mind. The story is their own. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting my shapes and elements. But when I talk to the viewers in the sense the people who either see it, like it, buy it, or whatever, they make their own story out of this. So it's very interesting to see that people make their own stories looking at my painting. That's an interesting thing to think in artist life. Thank you. Next one. Yeah, this is very much my city where this is the city side of the city side in the sense, the old town in my city where a lot of the old heritage architecture is still there, still standing. It's not been taken over by concrete blocks. So my paintings are like, I mean, they will remain in my paintings forever, even if the buildings are demolished within few years.
Do you paint plein air or do you photograph and paint then in your studio?
See, I prefer to paint plein air to using photograph, but it's not always possible. If I want to do a very cityscape on a crowded street, I need photographs. Again, if I go to some place like Himalaya for a few days, I can't be doing many plein air paintings. I have to take the photographs and come back and utilize them for longer time. So I paint both. Next one.
Thank you.
This is from Kerala. So I don't know how many of you have seen this place, but Kerala is also known as God's own country, as they say it, because it's really very, very green, very, very beautiful countryside. And this is probably my favorite painting so far. Okay. And the Venice is, of course, all artists' muse, because there is no other city in the world which is like Venice, where you see two things, like there is a reality and there is a reflection anywhere you see. So that's the interesting part of Venice. Next.
Have you ever been an urban sketcher?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of urban sketchers in Pune. The chapter is pretty big. So sometime I go there. I've given the demo for them sometime, somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, this is also one of my favorite painting because this is, I mean, if you notice, these are only few washes, few added glazing and just the brushwork. So this is one of the not experiment, I would say, my happy output, where most of what I wanted to say has been said in the most minimum way. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm very happy with this painting. Okay, next one.
Hi.
Hi, can you zoom it a bit? Yeah, Uru Thau, you want to ask something?
Yes. The weather, the humidity in India influence
We have
with your
rainy.
work?
Sorry, humidity, you asked me.
Yeah, yes. When you paint, the humidity in the weather?
See, the city which I stay is only humid when in the rainy season. See, we have season, we have rain for 4 months. So during the 4 months, it's very humid. The rest of the 7-8 months, it is pretty much dry. I prefer to paint in both times. Like in humidity, you can work a lot in wet. But when it's a dry weather, you can have a lot more brushwork, more expressively.
Yes, thanks. And affect the way you store your work? When you store your work, finish work? The storage, the way you store it.
How do you protect your finished work when you're done?
How do I protect?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't care much about it actually. I just put it a bunch of paintings in a plastic bag and put it in a drawer, or if I'm at home, I put it under the bed. And whenever I'm exhibiting, I exhibit it in a frame and behind a glass, so it is UV protected.
Yes.
I don't really give much importance to conservation, but obviously I protect it in a plastic bag and keep it in a drawer and keep it safe from a UV protection. And now, since I've started using Daniel Smith colors, like they are far more permanent than the colors I used to use earlier. So you have to use good colors, good paper, and that's how you protect the quality for a longer time.
Yes, many thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, this is also one of my city side thing. This is a typical landscape, but with yellow flowers. Okay, next one. This is a cafe in Rome. I mean, I have not visited this cafe. I got some reference from somebody, but I'm surely going to visit it the next time I go there. And the quality of the reflected light I could get, I'm happy with this one. This is a little monochromatic, but it's rather a favorite of mine because there is a composition which has got a L like a shape. And in fact, this place is very close from my studio. So rather close to my heart as well, one can say. I mean, all the Indians would immediately recognize, they always see this kind of scene, but non-Indians would find this very amusing. I mean, this is a typical splashing wave. This is one of my Indian village. Can you zoom it a little more? Yeah, this painting really got, I mean, when I put it on Facebook, there are more than one person asked me to buy it. So one sitting here is a proud owner of that, but the painting is still with me. Right, John?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But you have to give me your address.
I will give you my address.
This is from Himalaya. I mean, this would look like a Switzerland, but this is actually Manali in India. These are the banana trees, and this is I mean, people call it my favorite green. I mean, all colors are my favorite colors, but I have been a little bold than the other artists using the green very bright, particularly the phthalo green, yellow shade, phthalo green, blue shades. They are very, very bright green shades, and most of the artists are very shy in using them. I made a little daring to use it, and it became pretty much popular. So a lot of people call this my green. I'm happy about it.
That's interesting. Many times I'm asked by artists, they kind of want to shy away from the phthalos because they're so strong. And I saw the multiple phthalos on your dot card and the work you do with them.
Because what happened when I started painting, a lot of Indian other watercolor painters, they were largely conditioned and influenced by the British painters who used to paint mostly in grays and browns. But if you live in a tropical country, you see the green as a very bright fluorescent and a very striking green. So unless you use those kind of phthalo green and stuff like that, I don't think I'm making justice to my surrounding. So I started using this very, very bright green, and it was appreciated. Thanks. Next one. Yeah, this is a typical Italian town, which is very favorite subject of mine. There are too many windows, so it's a little boring to paint all those windows. But ultimately, the effect won't come unless you paint all those windows. So a lot of textural variation around and the shapes and the windows. So Italian hill town can easily be one of my favorite subjects. This was a little attempt during my workshop, painting a portrait, which I'm not very good at. I mean, not that I paint portrait very often, but sometime I do try. Next one. Okay, so we're done there.
Those are beautiful. Lots of comments about how vibrant your paintings are. Many comments on that.
Thanks.
Milind, whenever you're ready with your demo, just kindly proceed to share your screen so that we can have the other.
Okay. I'll start sharing the screen. And
Thank you.
Well, when you do your paintings, I saw a few flowers in the foreground of your paintings. Have you ever done florals?
No, I haven't done many florals because I like to paint flowers if they are in front of me, not from the photograph. So that doesn't happen very often. So if I go somewhere, there are flowers or somebody offers me some flowers and I'm putting them in the vase. But I'm not much of a flower painter. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
No, do you see my main screen?
No, very good.
So, yeah. See, there are some 2-3 options I wanted to paint. Focus है. Okay, this is what I am planning to paint.
Very nice.
Milind, maybe you would like to talk about the subject for those who are not familiar with Varanasi.
So this the painting which I'm doing right now, it's a temple from Varanasi, and I mean those who of you don't know about Varanasi or have not heard about Varanasi, it's a temple town in India. There are many temples, and I think some historians say that was the first city in the world. That I don't know about. But when I saw it, I had assumed like there will be not many temples around and along the bank of Ganga, and it will be very huge. But what I mean to say is you have to see it to believe it, that how many temples are there in one place along the bank. It's a 5-kilometer bank which just goes on unending. And there are huge numbers of different temples, different architecture, and so many people come there for various different reasons. I mean, there are some devotees from India who come for their devotional time. There are photographers who come for photographing, artists like me who come for painting. Musicians are moving all along the bank, all kind of musician, Indian classical musician to jazz musician. And there are a lot of hippies moving around for hash and stuff like that. So it's like a Disneyland. Everyone can get their own muse out there. So one has to really see it to believe it, what's happening there. John and Catherine, have you been to Varanasi when you were in India? Did you have a chance?
I don't think so. No, we're getting ready to do our second trip, and then the coronavirus hit.
Yeah. So next time you plan to come, we'll go there.
I would love that. We both love that.
Where is Angela? Angela is not here, but she must have seen Varanasi, I'm sure.
I'm sure she has.
So, John, for this painting, I'm using this set. You want to let people know about, 6 of my favorite colors out of the 19.
Awesome. I shared that yesterday as well with the viewers. I saw a lot of the colors that you're using. I saw the moon glows, the phalos, light
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, this one is a typically very colorful one. So there is a very strong red and there's a brown in the darks, which I will be mixing with my crimson and phthalo and pyrrole red, of course. So many of you, I'm very happy to be around with you. While I'm painting, if you have any questions, please ask me. I do not get disturbed while I'm painting. I rather like to listen to some noise when I'm painting.
So there was a question about the colors in your set. What made you pick those particular 6 colors that you're using actually today?
See, one of the reasons, as I told you earlier, I like to stick to certain numbers of color so that I am comfortable with mixing my darks and mixing my grays also, neutrals, for the color harmony. So these are the 6 colors which gives me the highest spectrum to paint any painting. Okay, so they are basically primaries moving from warm to cool. So basically 2 reds is a warm red and a cool red, warm blue and a cool blue, a green and a yellow. There is only one yellow, but I can always make a warm yellow by adding little red. So I can carry just this small box anywhere. If I go on a plein air painting trip, I don't have to carry all the 19 colors or stuff like that. And I can mix almost any color that I want out of these 6. So it wasn't easy choosing because I wanted to choose only the 6 colors. That's why I chose the ones which would give me the maximum spectrum.
Thank you. Milind, do you paint every day? Do you have a certain amount of time you spend painting, or it's just when the feeling hits you?
No, I almost paint every day. Like I would. Many people don't like me saying, but it's like an addiction. I have to paint. I have to have my morning tea, and I have to put my brush in the paint and do something. So these things have become a very obsessive part of my life. So yeah, but of course there are days when I don't paint. Sometimes if I'm doing something very specifically other thing. And like I have to go to bank and do some stuff like, but otherwise I prefer to paint every day. And if I don't get to paint, I get restless.
Milind, thank you. What paper are you using?
The one which I'm using currently is a Chinese Bao Hong. Tissue paper. Yes.
Milind, do you use masking fluid when you do some of your paintings, or is that something you don't use?
No, I usually don't use masking fluid. Very few times if I want to do some flowers or save some areas, I might use it. But most of the time I don't use it. The reason is my drawing is not very accurate. Drawing is an approximation. And as I paint, things get more defined. So I like to move around things while I'm painting. That's why there is no exact spot where I would want to mask the thing. I prefer to leave the white spaces if they are bigger ones. And if I want to do something small, I use the white acrylic or gouache paint.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Like to paint more wet on wet or wet on dry, or do you not have a preference?
No, I don't have a preference. It will vary according to the subject. If it's a very misty or a rainy thing, I would be doing wet on wet. But usually I do dry. I do wet on dry. So there are areas where there will be a lot of wet in wet effect, but it will be in a limited sort of area.
Thank you.
So Milind, Ishak has a question. It's kind of an interesting question. He says, a question to Master Milind. Do you agree with another artist, Joseph Z, who said it's easy for anyone to become an artist. It just takes 20 years.
Yeah, but I have seen people who have mastered it in less than 20 years. So obviously in 20 years, anyone will be like finishing their 10,000 hours and master the technique. But I agree that there is no shortcut. One has to work very hard to become.
So there's another question from Susan, and something I noticed as well. I've seen Anders and Alvaro paint at a steep angle, such as you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that normally the way that you paint, with such a steep angle?
Yes, I prefer a stiff angle. When I started initially, I used to work on a little more flatter angle. But then later I found two advantages, that the painting picture frame is perpendicular to my vision. So there is no perspective in that. So there is a better understanding and a control from the compositional point of view. Secondly, since I started doing workshops and demonstrations, it's much easier for people to see who are standing behind me. So I prefer the vertical position more.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Are you referring to your photograph constantly to determine your values, or you just do that on your own after a while?
See, I'm looking at the photograph for about half a minute and then referring to my painting. So there are times when I look at the photograph for a longer time, but I immediately move away from it because I don't want to get stuck in what is there. I want to take that as a reference, but be more happy creatively.
Thank you.
Do you have any order to paint? You start by the light, you start by the shadows, or
See,
you
usually
decide in the moment?
I put in the high, very bright colors first. Then obviously, the obvious thing is you go from light to dark. So it's not shadows or light. Basically, in watercolor, you have to go from light to dark. So there's no other way. You can't go from. Of course, sometimes there are times that I would do the shadows and leave the light areas and maybe add a little lighter color on the light area. But very rarely. Most of the time, I just block in the main colors and then go to the shadows.
Thanks.
Well, what kind of brush are you using?
This one is a mop, which is this is a mop manufactured by Brewstro company, which is relatively not very expensive, but very good.
Sorry, but the cup is obstructing your view from your palette. Is that possible to move it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So I'm having a little something hot.
So Milind Ishak has a question. He says, one more question. Art is distinct in that there's absolutely no mud. He doesn't see any mud from you unless you allow it, unless you, Milind, allow it. So how do you keep from looking like separate stitched colors, something that novices have difficulty in doing?
Sorry, I didn't get your question, John, correctly. Can you simply?
So what he's saying is that novices in doing the painting you're doing, there'd probably be mud because you have so different colors and different shades. How do you create such beauty in your paintings and so many different shapes and colors and not have mud?
Mud. See, the mud is I don't think mud is a quality of the color. Mud is more of a complexion. So if you go on overworking, doing the brushwork, that creates mud. But if you have some untampered wash, now this is a color which is very neutral, which happened by mixing two complementary colors. So would you call this mud or would you call this a fresh color? That depends on the quality of the wash, so quality of the complexion. So if you manage the complexion pretty well, I don't think it will look muddy.
Excellent.
I think that was the question. Huh?
Yes. I'm going to look at the painting behind the one you're doing. You use just they're so bright and they're very distinct images.
Right.
And there's no overwash. They're just really quite beautiful. If any of you watching have a question, you can ask Milind directly as well.
One question from Mitzi. I wonder, do you have 2 tubs of water to clean brushes or just one?
Milind, can you kindly help us unmute your microphone for this cam? Yeah, for this camera. Yeah.
Hello, I wonder, can he hear me?
Yes,
Probably.
he can. We'll just ask him to unmute this camera.
Milind, good afternoon. This is
Okay,
Mitzi.
that's I am the host. Fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
I wonder, do you have 1 tub of water to clean brushes or 2 tubs, one clean, one muddy?
So it's a good idea to have one clean and one muddy. Right now, I don't have the clean one. But thanks for reminding me. I'll get one more.
It's greeting from Ohio.
Yeah. Hi, where are you? I don't see you on the screen. Fine.
I'm using somebody else's computer.
Okay. No problem.
This is Avi from California.
Okay.
I just noticed you put a dark patch right in the center. I cannot look at the original photograph, so I don't know if that reflects what's in the photograph. Is that something you have a vision of in the final painting?
I don't have the exact vision of the final painting, but like when I start painting, this is like a abstract composition. I like to think as so that I don't get caught up with what is in the reference picture. I have a better creative happiness if I do it as a different abstract. You know what I mean? What I mean to say. See, whenever you paint from a photograph, there are chances that you get caught up in everything that is in a photograph, which doesn't usually happen when you're in a plein air. Plein air, you're overwhelmed with information. So you have to choose something from what is there as your aesthetic priority. But if I have a photograph which is already information in a rectangle, then there are chances that I might just trying to copy everything that is there over here. I don't want to do that. So I imagine this as my own different painting. The material, the elements I'm picking from that, but I'm trying to stick, be more happy, if you know.
That's why you are. That's why you are a genius. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Lynn, I know you told us that your father was an artist and you accompanied your father. Did you also go to school?
No, I didn't go to any art school. See, I was very fortunate that my father was a painter and he was also a teacher in the art school. And he had a lot of friends who used to teach in the art school, who used to come to my house, our house. So it was like I had an art school in my home. So I didn't have the need to go to art school as such. I went to some other education stream, which I got very bored of. So I do miss not going to art school, but not going to art school gave me one important benefit, that my passion remained alive. Because I've seen people who go to art school, it becomes like a compulsive study element for them. And then the passion kinds of dies off, some people I've seen. So thankfully that didn't happen in my case.
Lynn, do you use any opaque colors in your as part of your palette?
Not in my palette, but sometimes, since you mentioned it, I sometimes use a little acrylic paint just to create some kind of opaque effect. Acrylic white paint, or even a watercolor white paint. But they are not in my palette. I keep a separate dish or something, or on the table, I just mix those opaque colors and use them sometimes.
Only white? Is the opaque color is mostly white at the end?
Yeah, it's only white, only white.
Okay.
But of course, in the set of colors, there are some colors which are more transparent, some colors which are less transparent. So you may want to call them opaque. So technically they're transparent watercolors, but some are more transparent, some are less.
So, do you always do some thumbnail painting before you start the bigger one?
Yes, yes, yes. Most of the time I do it.
Yeah.
The thumbnail also helps you in going further in the actual painting. Like in the thumbnail, you have a composition on a smaller thing. So all your space division, the distribution of tones and colors, everything is there in the thumbnail. But beyond that, thumbnail also initiates your brain, subconscious mind. So your brain or a subconscious mind, I would like to call it, it has already traveled ahead in time and created a path on which I have to go. So the thumbnail takes about 2 or 3 minutes, but it gives me a fair enough guideline where I'm going while painting.
Okay, thank you.
So for some of you watching, I know we're going to be hitting the hour. Milind is still going to be painting, and you can actually stream this at a later time and watch. And I'm going to ask Milind if he will also post his finished work, the work he's working on right now, to Facebook, so everybody can actually see his finished work if you have to leave. Milind, would that be okay?
Yeah.
Milind, what kind of angle do you use for your watercolor board if you're painting at home?
See, I largely prefer the angle which is pretty much vertical. Okay. Sometime now I'm painting at home only. In my studio, I have a bigger easel, and if I'm doing a very large painting, obviously sometime I like to tilt it and then bring it back. So I have a flexible easel. I keep on changing the angle, but I like it to be more vertical than horizontal all the time.
So Ronnie has a question, says, do you always use paper blocks? And if not, how do you prepare your paper?
See, I usually use, if I'm doing a large painting, then I use either 300 GSM or 440 GSM or more. So I would just paste it on the board. Earlier, when I used to use the Indian handmade paper, I used to do a lot of pasting and wet the paper, then paste the 4 sides, then let it dry, let it stretch, etc. But in recent days, I haven't been bothering much about stretching it. So,
And we're doing some dark outlines. What is the color you're using for the dark outlines? Like
see,
along the
it's a
top.
mixture of tallow and crimson, and I've squeezed in little black also. So if you see the very dark thing, it's a mixture of crimson, this one particularly. It's a mixture of crimson and phthalo.
So lizard crimson and phthalo.
Hmm.
Excellent.
Milind sir, this is Anilia. Good evening. I joined in a little late. While you're doing, can we have some questions for John as well?
Yeah, I suppose so, John. Is it okay, John? These guys have questions for you.
Oh, yes.
Hi, John.
Yes.
This is Anil here. I'm a student of Milind sir, based in Dubai. From the time I've started using watercolors, it's only been Daniel Smith, and you know, so we have our stock which we replenish before it gets over. I've tested and tried others and have not been happy. So thanks for making excellent paint. You know, that actually makes the painting looks even brighter. You know, we get to hear that you're personally involved and take pride in the fact that, you know, you have the best paint produced. So thanks for that.
Oh, thank you very much.
I have a question relating to you know, the some kind of material which is like a varnish that can be done on watercolor. Do you think you have any plans to bring any varnish which can give it a better gloss, or can preserve it dust free for a longer time? Is there something on the cards?
Probably not very soon, Anil. I know that if you want to use, there's some out there that you could use. There's the MSA that's out. I think you're talking for like the painting without using glass, right? So as a protection.
Yes.
So the MSA is available to do that. But we stopped making acrylics and we don't use polymers. So it would probably be some time before we would do that.
Okay. Thanks, John. As long as it is non-toxic and something that can be used indoors, that'll be great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love Dubai. When I visited Dubai, it's a wonderful, wonderful place with wonderful people. I look forward to going back.
Yeah. We'd be happy to connect. And
awesome.
Yeah.
Milind, this is Avi from California. Do you ever come out to Southern California? We have an art league. We could certainly invite you here if you have plans of coming here.
Yeah, I will have plans of coming there if you invite me. Definitely, I'll plan.
We'll coordinate later. Thanks.
Yeah. So.
So amazing how that painting just starts coming together. Milind, what brush are you using for the fine work that you're doing right now?
See, this one is a rigger,
A rigger?
a very thin rigger.
Milind, have you scheduled any workshops, in-person workshops in the future?
Yeah, in the future, but we never know like when the things will go normal. So currently, I've been doing a lot of Zoom workshops only. I have one or two workshops scheduled, but I don't know when they will happen. There is one in Rajasthan, which is in November. And there was one in Italy, which has been postponed to 2020, September. (2022).
Ask something. Right at the beginning, you drew some people at the very, very beginning. Is that just establish the horizon for you?
Yeah, no, the horizon is somewhere here because this is a photograph which is taken from a boat in a river, from a top of a boat. So, yeah, but it established a ground line, you can say, rather than horizon, I would call it.
So like Ronnie has a question. So it's so beautiful. I love how you saved the whites. Amazing how you anticipated that. Any tips?
Yeah. See, the only tip for saving the white is when somebody asks me how to paint snow. So the answer I give, like, don't paint snow. Okay, don't paint snow in the sense you don't have to put any paint there. So the tip is you have to think in a positive shape and a negative shape in a clear manner. So think of white shapes as a positive shapes. Then it becomes, if the positive shape is in your mind, it is very easy to paint around it, the negative shape. So in your mind, there has to be a positive shape clear in your mind. So since the question is there, I'll just show you an example, what I mean to say. See, I'm writing my name here. Okay. Do you see it?
Yes.
So I painted the negative shapes and I retained the positive shapes. I could do that because I had a vision of this shape in the mind.
That's
So
very
to retain whites, you have to have that shape in the mind. And then just don't bother.
That's really interesting. Milind, do you have in your mind when you are finished a painting? Like, at what point do you say, I'm done with this painting?
Yeah, I do find it pretty much not easy because when I am involved in the painting, I don't know whether I'm overworking or not. So largely, I ask somebody whether I should stop or not. So if I'm doing a demonstration, I ask the viewers. If I'm in a workshop, I ask the students. If I'm alone in the studio, I just go back and ask myself, should I be stopping or not? But I always find it difficult trying to stop at the very exact point. That's the ongoing struggle that goes on with me.
Right now, you did some highlighting in a white. Was that a white watercolor or acrylic?
That's a acrylic.
Thank you.
See, the reason I use acrylic, because if I want to do some dark washes over it or something else, this has become a permanent thing. This won't mix with the next wash. And many
Someone
times,
behind you. Oh, go ahead.
sometime I use this whitener to paint. Correction marker, as they call it. So it will create a permanent white space. So if I'm pretty sure about that, I would use it.
Lynn, for the dark of the windows, is that still the mixture of alizarin crimson and the phthalo?
This one?
Yes.
Yes. Crimson phthalo, and there is little black, which I had, ivory black, which I had squeezed in. So that was added, but just the phthalo green and the crimson, I will show you in this. Okay, I'm picking up some crimson here. Picking up the phthalo green here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it creates a perfect super dark color. And which is not dead, which is very lively.
Very nice.
And then it's easier to move it on the, if I use more phthalo green, then it will move on the cooler side. If more red it will move on the warmer side.
Right. Yeah. That's excellent. So Melinda, when we're looking at you on the Facebook, we're seeing a picture of the boats is what the shadow is. Was that still the 5 or 6 colors to do that painting? Do you just know offhand? Do you remember offhand?
Which painting are you talking about?
It's a picture of boats.
My background.
Yes, your background, correct.
Background, yeah. This one. Yeah. Yes. 5 or 6 colors, you can do it.
5 or 6 colors. Excellent.
Not 5 or 6, specifically my 6 colors. Yeah.
I love that concept about having the negative space for the whites in your head. That's a lot to keep in your head.
Yeah. See, there is a very wonderful analogy musicians use. I mean, I'll use the musician's analogy. When a composer or a musician is playing music, he has to be more careful with the timings when he's not going to play. The distance between the notes is more important than the played notes. So a lot of musician things in that kind of those terms, like the gaps are more important than the filled up spaces. And if you know this concept, then it becomes very easy to leave the white spaces.
That's a great analogy.
And whenever I start a painting, I always think white paper as a completeness in itself. Whenever I put my first mark on the paper, what I'm doing is I'm damaging the unity of the paper. So I have to do it in a way that, again, I bring back the unity to the painting. But whiteness as a space is a completeness in itself. If you understand this concept, what I'm talking about, it's a very what they call it, Zen concept.
Hi, this is Hemangi. May I ask a question, please?
Yes, sure, Himangi.
Thank you. So, sir, I'm a very beginner in when it comes to drawing or art or painting. I recently bought your book also, but not yet started with watercolors yet. But I like to watch all these videos and your demonstrations. They are a treat to the to the eyes. My question is, even if I don't become an artist, but how do I appreciate art more? How do I understand? How can I tell between good art and a better art? And how can I progress? I mean,
See, basically, what you like is more important. There is no absolute definition of what is good art and what is bad art. So you have to get, you have to know all kinds of art. I mean, there is a modern art, there is a traditional art, there is more of a naturalism, there is more of abstract expressionism. So learn everything, watch everything, see everything, and then decide what you like. Okay, don't ask anybody what you should like and what you should not like. And you can also dabble with the techniques. So when you're trying to do something, you are actually practically doing that. Practically doing that itself will take you closer to the artist's mind, and you will appreciate more.
thank you, sir.
So anyway, if you are a student, you can always join my workshops.
I would like to. I'm a working professional, but yeah, kindergarten student or even below that when it comes to painting or drawing. So
see, there are a lot of students, my students who take the beginner courses also. So a lot of the students do the beginner courses with those people and then join my workshop also many times. So there are multiple ways available with me.
sure, sir. Then I'll DM you on your Instagram, if that is okay.
Sir, where can I find the information on your classes and workshops? Because I thought this was really meant for the professionals. Because the level of painting is just unparalleled to anything I've seen in the past.
You can find on my Instagram post, or Alison is here on her Instagram. So Alison is the one who organizes my workshop. And
oh, okay. Is she on the chat by any chance?
Yes, I'm here. You can definitely contact me on the chat.
Okay, thank you, Alison.
You can look up Milind's Instagram and contact me via Instagram as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I'll contact you too, Alison. Thank you.
Milind, do you give yourself a time period to finish a painting, or do you actually come back to a painting at a later time, or when you're done, are you done?
No, when I work in my studio, many a times it can happen that I have not finished the painting today. So because I get stuck at the decision making. So maybe I'll come back tomorrow, or maybe I'll come back after a week and finish that painting. So of course, when I'm doing a demo, there is a time and I'm finishing that like today. But when I work in my studio, the timing can vary to any extent.
Okay. Excellent.
See, the actual time spent in doing watercolor is not the practical time doing it. It's more of the decision making that takes time. So when I just work for myself in the studio, I do it very leisurely sometimes. See, there are chances if you do it for a longer time, you are overworking in watercolor. That's why I leave that painting and go away, and then come back the next day and do something with a fresh perspective.
Okay. Well, that turned out
So,
very nice.
so one more question, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So how do you give the priority for the observation skills if you in your daily life? I mean, if you want to become an artist,
See, observation.
so you might have.
I mean, observation skill is the thing. It's more important. So it is 90% what you observe and what you translate the observed thing into shapes, colors, and tones, and you put it on the paper. So putting it on the paper is the last 10%. What you observe is maybe 50%. What you analyze is 40%, and 50% is the act of painting. But this observation doesn't mean that you are sitting there for half an hour and observing. You should always have a paper and a pen ready. You can do a lot of sketching. So actually, the act of sketching is act of observation.
Yes.
So it is learning perspective, learning drawing, as well as learning composition will only happen when you have a pen and a paper in the hand, pencil and a paper. You are observing and choosing something. So you don't know what you choose, which is the right one. But if you put it on the paper, you immediately know what are your priorities. Okay. So suppose if I'm painting a painting like this in a plein air, so there are many things. So I would instinctively draw something that is catching my eye the most. So that thing becomes the most important object in the painting. Then the sides become relatively lesser important. So that's how I develop my sense of composition. But, to answer your question, observation is very important. Anil, can you help me?
I mean, elaborate on the same thing, Milind sir?
No. Can you help me when to stop?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I think you're pretty much done. I was going to
Yes,
tell you.
I think you're done, sir. The story is clear, and it's. I mean, it speaks for itself. I mean, I think it's time to stop.
It's amazing. You do amazing work.
John, did you get my answer? How do I know when to stop? I asked somebody when to stop.
Beautiful.
Yes, they're very grateful. That's very nice.
Amazing, Milind sir. It's nice.
Thank you.
Beautiful work. Thank you.
Awesome, really.
Absolutely amazing, Milind.
Thank you.
Great work, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beautiful demo. Thanks.
Thanks. Was that Mitzi? Oh, who was that?
Thank you. Thank you for your demo.
Okay, thank you.
And many of us from Ohio is watching you.
Yeah, I know.
This is Susan. Thank you so much. You are very inspiring.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank
Your
you. Very
colors,
nice.
your
Bye.
beautiful colors. Many thanks.
Listen, this is Avi. Should I contact you? You want to do a Zoom session with Milind later on here?
Sure. You can drop me a
Outreach?
message. You can drop me a message and we'll set it up.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.
Lynn, we're going to stream your video on Facebook and on YouTube. Would you also take a picture of your final work and just post it to Facebook so all of you
I'll
will
post it to
see it?
Facebook. See, I can do it right now itself. I'll send it to Alison or she will send it further to you, John.
It's beautiful.
You want me to share this reference on Facebook?
No, the painting. You can share both on the Facebook.
Okay.
Tomorrow I'll post it on the Facebook.
Sure.
Right now I'm sending it to you, Alison. You can send it to John further. If you want to share it, John,
Yeah,
you can.
I can send it here also, and I can send it to Ethel as well.
So I have sent you a photograph which is not cropped. So Alison, please.
I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you, Milind. This is Yvonne. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Susan.
Hello, this is Ronnie. I want to say thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed the presentation today. Thank you. I'm from Davis, California.
Oh, thank you.
I went to UC Davis, Barney.
Pardon, you went to UC Davis?
I did. I was a botany major.
Oh, wow. My husband's a professor at UC Davis.
Awesome. Great school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Love your work.
Beautiful work.
Ruby.
Thank you, sir, for answering all the questions.
All right.
Yes.
Milind, we
Thank you,
will
thank you.
do a gallery view in a short while, just so you know who our audience. I mean, we have over 100 audience in Zoom, in fact, and we have another 40
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah, I am in a gallery view, but unfortunately my view is only allowing my 25 people at one time. Yeah, that's Nancy Mikhail Strachenko.
And once you're ready to, once you're done with the piece, you can just help us release the share screen so that we could share your workshop poster and your socials account.
I'll stop share this one now, right
Thank
now.
you. There you go.
Okay.
So this is us. Say hi, everyone.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. That's just one of my, there's 3 more pages here and then another batch here.
Avi, Neil, Nancy, Nina, Lois, Allison.
And
Good
one
to
more
see you.
page. There you go.
Bye-bye. Many thanks.
Bye. So much, everybody, for joining.
And we are now to share Milind's upcoming workshop schedule. This is on September 18 and 19. And perhaps Allison can share a bit more about registration procedure. Allison?
Yeah. Yes. You can see my contact details at the bottom of the poster. You can just drop me a message on, preferably on WhatsApp, with your name and email address, and I will send you the details for registering. Thank you.
No, cioè nel senso che fai 12, mi metti
Alice?
And this is also Milind's socials account.
Siamo ancora vivi.
In Instagram, you have Mulick Milind. In Facebook, that's his name and his website.
Awesome.
Okay.
Milind, thank you so much. You were wonderful. Thank you for answering all the questions. You were great at answering the questions.
Yeah, my pleasure, John.
So any questions you still may have, please go to Milind's Facebook and ask questions and get interested in his classes. Wonderful teacher. There's information about how to do his classes. Thank you for being here, Milind.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Milind sir, and thanks to the
John.
organizers.
Thank you, Milind sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
night.
so much.